Hello, welcome everyone. This is our lecture number 2, chapter 5 C programming. In this lecture, we will understand C programming in details, and in this class, we will learn the basic foundation of C programming, which is very important. If you need, you can watch this video again and again and keep the note for yourself. Okay, so let's start. At first, we have to understand the computer memory and the memory address. So this is the chart of the computer memory. So we have two types of memory here. One of them is primary memory and another one is secondary memory. Okay, so here primary memory means which memory can give the primary location for any kinds of data, and the secondary memory can keep all the data permanently inside of this. Okay, so here primary memory has also two types. Here one of them is RAM and another one is ROM. So RAM, the full form is random access memory. That means you can access this memory randomly anytime if you need. And the ROM, which is called the read-only memory, that means this memory can only keep some data which is very important for run this hardware. Okay, because we know if you want to set up your Windows in your computer, so you need some instructions. So those instructions is keep inside of this ROM. Okay, so here RAM, which is also called the volatile memory, and the ROM is called the non-volatile memory. So what is volatile and what is non-volatile? So volatile means if you keep anything inside of this RAM and if you don't save those things, so that means this data will be lost. So this is called the volatile memory. That means RAM will give you the access of his memory for the limited time. Okay, if you save this data, then it will relocate to RAM to the secondary memory, that means a permanent memory, which is called the hard disk or SSD. So hard disk stand for HDD stand for hard disk drive, and the SSD is solid state drive, which is our secondary memory. Okay, so the things is, if you have any kinds of data, like if you open any kinds of text editor inside of your computer and if you write any data here, and if you don't save this, so it will be lost because it takes the memory from this RAM, and after saving any kinds of data, it will be relocated from RAM to the hard disk, that means the secondary memory. So this is the actual scenario of the memory. And again, if I said something here, like if you consider this is a hard disk or solid state drive, whatever you want, you can call HDD or SSD. So this hard disk drive, like if I write A is equals to 10 in our computer, that means A will take a space from hard disk, which is A. So, and in this location, it will keep its data, which is 10. And if I write here B is equals to 20, so again, it take another space from his memory, and inside of this space, it will keep their data 20. Okay, so here every kinds of variable can take a space from its memory. Okay, so that means if any kinds of data take a space from this memory, that means this data has a location, right? So this location is called the memory address. Okay, this location is called the memory address, and the sign of the memory address is and, which is and in English, but here we will call it ampersand. Okay, so ampersand stand for indicates the location of a variable. Okay, here if I wanna say what is the location of A, but I don't know, any user, nobody can say you that what is the actual location of this variable. So here if I said address or ampersand of A, which is indicates the location of A. Okay, like this could be the location of this A. Okay, so here we don't know the location, that's why we write here ampersand of A, that means it indicates the location of A, and the data is A is equals to 10. So here in this location the data is 10, and in this location the data is 20. So here memory address actually indicate the address of this variable, where the variable is located, and inside of this location we keep many kinds of data. Okay, here so memory has two types, primary and secondary, and primary memory has two types, RAM and ROM. So RAM can be forget the data, that's why it's called the volatile memory, but ROM can't forget this data because this is the main operating system, main hardware components which is very necessary to operate the device. That's why this is kept on this non-volatile memory or ROM. And hard disks always keep all kinds of saved data which is come from the RAM or directly saved on this hard disk. Like in your computer you have many kinds of images or song or videos, those data are kept on this hard disk, and if you write any kinds of thing, at first it will be kept on this RAM, and after that saving you will have this data from this hard disk or SSD. Okay, so this is our primary foundation of this memory. After that we will learn about the data type. What is data type? So in this chart we have four types of data types: integer, floating point, character, and double. So here integer, the example of the integer is the positive, negative, and the neutral number. That means without any kinds of fraction, if you have any kinds of data, that is called the integer. Okay, the short name of the integer is int, and the name specifier should be %d. So here this short name and the name specifier is our main keyword. Okay, keyword, which word you can't change in C programming, which is called the keyword. Here we write down this short name and name specifier in the yellow color. That means you can't change those kinds of keyword. Okay, so here another thing is that you can't spell this int like capital capital I, then smaller nt. You should be write int in this way. Okay, here after that we'll have this floating point, that means a fractional number which is 3.56. it should be positive, negative, it could be many kinds of number, but must be it should be contain this fractional value. Okay, the short name is float, float, and the name specifier is %f. Then the character indicates the uppercase and the lowercase inside of any kinds of character. So uppercase A, B, Z, or lowercase a, C, D, or A, B, Z, whatever you can say. So those characters are different to C programming, because already you know that C programming is a case sensitive language. That means they understand the difference between the uppercase and the lowercase. So that's why they have the case sensitivity. That means a capital A is not equal the smaller a for C programming. Like if you say any things like apple, APPLE, and also APPLE, in English both are the same, because this is also apple and this is also the apple, but in C programming those are not the same, because they had the capital A and here it had this smaller a. So that's why you have to notice about the case, because C program is a case sensitive language. So if you indicate this apple, you have to write this kinds of spelling in over your C programming. If you write this smaller a, then you have to use this smaller a inside of your programming. So this is the difference. So here character, the short name is CHAR, and the name specifier should be %C. And finally we have this double. This is another type of data type, which is example is 3.33. like if I divided 10 divided by 3, then we will get this kinds of value which is infinity. Or if you have like this kinds of fractional value which is very long, this is called the double. So short name should be double, but this D in a smaller case. So here name specifier should be %LF. So here you can ask me many questions like floating point, the name specifier is %f. What is name specifier? The first question. Name specifier is who can specify the name. That means what is driver, who drive the car or who drive any kinds of engine. So he is the driver. So here specifier is who can specify the name of the data type. Okay, so that's it. This is called the name specifier. Here for the floating point, we write here %f, which is a name specifier, and for this character we write here C, which is the first character or first alphabet of this spelling. But here integer we write here %d, not %I. For what? So here we always use the decimal number system in our calculation, so that's why we use here percent of d. If you want to calculate with the octal number system, then you have to use percent of o, and if you want to calculate with hexadecimal number system, then it would be percent of x. Okay, so this is the difference for integer. And for elif, so here double should be percent of d, right? But here we have this percent of elif because double is a fractional value, also floating point is also a fractional value, right? But this double is a long fractional value, right? But long float. Okay, so this is a long float, so that's why here LF, that means long and float. Okay, this is our data type. So now we have to start our next topics. So this is the basic structure of C programming. So what is the basic structure? In our first lecture, we already discussed about the basic structure, that is hash include stdio.h. We must learn in detail these things. After that, we have to use this main, and inside of this curly brace, we have to use the main command of our program. Like if you ask for a calculator, like if you have to create an operation like addition or subtraction or multiplication, then you can command inside of this curly brace. But this is the main structure, you have to use those lines inside of your every program. Okay, for using these kinds of language, we have to use some software or application which is called IDE. IDE means integrated development environment. That means this is a kind of environment where we can develop a program. Okay, and this is integrated, that means you can write it down in your own language, that means English, and computer will understand in it by their language. So that's why this is called the integrated development environment. That means they can integrate both of the language for the computer and the human. Now in this IDE name is code blocks. You can use many kinds of IDE like Turbo C or code blocks or Sublime or VS Code or anything, whatever you want. So here we use code blocks. So inside of this code blocks, we write these kinds of program. So now the time to elaborate those things, which what types of data can be kept on this curly brace. Here we have this version, void main. Void main is the function. So can you remember in chapter 4 we learned the tag and attribute. So tag is right inside of this angle bracket, which is our keyword. Here in C programming, we have to use some function and some keyword for instruct our computer. So whenever you need to command to our computer to create something, then we have to use some these kinds of function and some keyword. So how do you know that what is the function? If you have any word and after this word if you have the first parenthesis, then this is your function. That means main is a function, scanf, which is also a function, printf is a function, and already you know that int is a keyword. Okay, so in our C programming, we always need to complete the three tasks like input, processing, output. This is our main task in every sector in our daily life or in computer. So this is input, then after that you have to process those things and the output. Here we need one more thing which is called the variable declaration. So variable declare, that means when you want to add something, like if you want to add a plus b plus c, then the result should be kept on this x. That means we need 4 variable here. So when you want to work with those variable, at first you have to declare those variable at the beginning of your programming, because otherwise computer will not understand those words as a variable. So that's why at first we have to declare the name of those variable, whatever you want in your programming. So here we use abc and x. That's why at first we write the name like int, that means all of the variable in integer, and all the variable will keep the value for integer. So here we write int a, b, c and x. That means a will keep an integer, b also will keep an integer, c and x, everybody will keep integer number. So here the variable declare is our first text. After that we have to input. So here we input scanf. Scanf is a function. Here scan is a function. So scan and f stand for function. So after this scanf we have to use this first parenthesis, and inside of this we have to use double quotation. So we have to write many things inside of this, we will learn it later, just we know the process how it works. So after that you have to process something like ABC is your input and X is your output. So here a plus b plus c, X is equals to a plus b plus c, that means a plus, the result of this equation will be kept on this X, and the output should be printf. Print is a name and f is the function. So printf is our main function where we can find the output. So here you have some question, maybe what is at first the question is what is main. Main is the very important and the global function, you can say this. Under this function we have to done every work. Okay, so that's why after this main we have to use this first parenthesis, then this curly brace indicate that this is the part of this main function, and inside of this curly brace we have to work all of our task. Okay, now you can ask me another question, that like how we can write the variable. So there is a very clear cut rules for variable declaration, like the name of the variable. So you can write any variable name in any character like A, B, C and whatever you want. You can write this variable name by your name. It could be like Ayat, or it could be Aryan, or it could be Lamia, whatever. Or it could be the any country name, but the limitations is the name, the variable name should be in character format. Okay, it could be also alphanumeric, like the name, variable name should be A1. This should be it could be the variable name. Okay, it's allowed, but 1 is not allowed. Okay, you can't keep this number at the beginning of this variable name. Okay, and you can't write variable name like A space 1, okay, or A space B. So the space is not allowed inside of this variable name. And again the special character like star or hash or dollar sign, this is not allowed inside of this variable name. Okay, but you can write here like A underscore B, this is allowed. Okay, so also the variable name should be in within 31 character, not more than 31 character. Okay, so there is some specific rules, then you can declare any kinds of variable. So you can have those rules in your textbook. I will already discuss about this. So here the variable then is in input, processing and the output. And we have another thing that we must need to know, that in C programming, like if you write A is equals to 10, this is allowed, but 10 is equals to A is not allowed. Why? Because in C programming always the value of the right side will be kept the variable in the left side. That means if you consider this variable as a home and this 10 is a human being, that means a human being can live inside of this house, but here a home cannot live in this human being, right? So here always you have to remember this thing, that you have to use this variable name in your left side, and the right side should be the value of this variable. Okay, also here in mathematics this is correct, like x is equals to a plus b and a plus b is equals to x. Okay, those are allowed in C programming. Okay, I erase those things, it will be clear for you. So here this is allowed in mathematics, but in C programming this variation is not allowed. Okay, this is not allowed because here it indicates that the value of the x will be kept in a plus b, so which is not actually possible. But here the result of this a plus b will be kept on this x, this is possible. So this is the version you have to always remember. Okay, now talk about something very important, which is here we use main function, scan function, print function. So here in English language you can have scan word, but not you can't have this scanf, and also you can have this print word, but you don't have this printf, right? So here the things that computer will not understand this language or this word because this is not in their dictionary, and int is not in English language dictionary. Okay, so here the full version of the int, that means the integer, is available inside of this English grammar but not int. So these words are very important to complete the C programming, right? So here we need a library, which library can keep this keyword and this function, which is very necessary for the C programming. And for this reason we need this header file or these things, hash include stdio.h. What is this? This is a library function or the header file. Okay, so library function means which library contain many kinds of function or keyword inside of this, and already you know that scanf, int, printf, this is not available in English grammar. That's why at first we have to introduce our computer that we are gonna use to use those keyword and those characters inside of my program. So that's why we have to use this library that computer can understand that this is the valid word. And this is also called the header file because this file is also available at the beginning of this program, the head of the program. So this is also called the header file because this is the file. So how do you know this is a file? Let's explain those things again. And hash include stdio.h, we will learn this in details right now. So here hash include, what is this? This is called the preprocessor directive. So what is preprocessor directive? That means you have to direct you have to give the direction to your processor that we have to we are gonna use some library function or some library inside of our program. So this hash include use for take permission from the computer, because we use here an IDE for our programming and we have to take permission from this IDE that we are going to use a library or new library to our program. So that's why here we give some direction to our processor. This is called a preprocessor directive because we just write this thing, not yet we write the word scanf int inside of our program. Before using those things we are just write the name of the library function. That's why preprocessor directive actually indicate that we are gonna use some library inside of our computer or inside of our programming. So hash include is the can take the permission. Okay, now we have to understand this std. Std stand for standard, then I for input and O for output. In this program we always give some input to our computer and take the output from this computer. So this is a standard input output system with the, this is the meaning of this stdio. Many of you are saying like studio. This is not studio, this is stdio. Here is no u. Okay, after that you will have this dot is the operator, and h is the header file extension. Already you know about this header file extension. Like for image you will have like jpg is the extension of the image, jpeg also the extension, you know. .mp3 is the extension of audio file, mp4 is the extension of video file. So header file, for this header file the h is the header file extension. That's why we call this header file, but because this is the file, that file can carry this extension. Also for this for attaching this file extension with this name, that's why we need an operator which is dot. Okay, so this is the very big explanation of this total library function, which is very necessary because without this library we can't use these kinds of keyword. And for writing these kinds of keyword we need to take permission from our computer, from our IDE, which is include, and after that we write down this the library function names. So here after that void means the null or nothing. Okay, so here we use a void. You can if you want you can avoid this void, or you can use here many things, so you will learn this later. So after this void we write here main. Main is very important thing because this is the main function. After that you need 4 types of work: variable declaration, input, processing, and the output. Okay, maybe you don't have any question. If you have, then you will ask this question in our comment section or in our Facebook page or in our next live class. Okay, so now talk about the first problem. So here we are very much ready to start our C programming. Our first program, which is write an algorithm, draw a flowchart, and C programming to find the sum of the two numbers. So here we already know the algorithm, which is our very basic algorithm what we learned our previous lecture number 1. If you don't watch this video, please at first watch those videos, then come to this video. So here start, then input two numbers, then calculate y is equals to a plus b, print the value of y, and then stop. So you can write your y or x whatever you want. So now start input a b. So I change this, like for in this y I write here x, also I write here x for your better understanding. So here calculate x is equals to a plus b. So the flowchart is remain unchanged. Start input a b, then x is equals to a plus b, print x, stop. So this is our basic flowchart and basic algorithm. Now talk about the C program. So here at first we have to write this hash include stdio.h, because this is our library function where we can find many kinds of keyword for our standard input and output. After that we use our main. So here we avoid this void. So void actually indicates null or nothing. So here we use our only main function. So this is a function because after this we have this first parenthesis. Then we start with this curly brace. So here curly brace, instead of this curly brace we have many kinds of instruction, right? So we start at first a, because int a, because for this calculation we need three types of variable a, b and x. So here I write int a, that means we need a variable where we want to keep integer type of value. That's why we write here a. If you want, you can write a float a, that means you can carry keep the value of a fractional value. So here I write int a, that means I want to keep the value integer inside of this a. Then I write another integer b, int b, that means another variable I need, and also I write here int x, that means I need another variable which is x, which is also keep integer value. So after that variable declaration is completed, then we talk about the input. So here the input is scanf. This is our input function. By this function computer will understand that they need to input something from the user. Like if you wanna calculate anything to your by your computer or your mobile phone, you must open your calculator application, then you give some data like like 10 plus 20. So that means you need to give the value and you are the user. So here we taught our computer, the device, that how to they can add some values. So here I give our command that please take input from the user. For those things we write a scanf. So when computer find this function, they will understand that now we have to keep the value from the user. So from this scanf, after this scanf we write here percent of d, then comma, and percent of a. Now talk about these things. So we have three type of integer, three integer variable like a, b and x. So here I call percent of d. Already you know that name specifier is percent of d, that means I call the integer, okay, with this specific keyword. So here scanf I write down here percent of d, that means I call integer. But here is the three variable a, b and x. I called whom? So here I called a. So here I called a. So then you need to understand something what happened inside of a computer. If you understand in deeply, so that means you will not forget the C program again in your life. So what happened when I write int a? When I write int a inside of my program, computer go to this hard disk, or if you save, then they will go to the hard disk and keep a location like a. Then they take a location from your hard disk, and if you write b, then they take another location from your computer. After that, if you write x, then they have another location for this x. So here you don't know this location, right? So like I think that location of a should be ampersand of a, and then for b ampersand of b, and for x ampersand of x, right? So here I want to give some value for this a. Computer already took some space from your computer, from your hard disk, right? So if you want to give some value to this variable, the variable should be keep this value to this location. So you don't know the location, right? So that's why you have to write this ampersand of a. That means please give my value to the location of a. Okay, so int a, when I declare this, or b or x, they always take the place from the hard disk, and after that I want to keep some value to this place. That's why I have to use the location of the a. And percent of d is the calling system to the variable. So here scanf will be keep three things at first. One is the one of them is percent of d, which is their name is specified. That means you have to call the integer, then which integer, a, and the location of the integer. That means ampersand of a, or the address of a, whatever you want. Okay, so now I take the input from the user, then again we need another input for b. So here also I use here percent of d, then comma ampersand of b. That means in this b you have to take another value, right? Okay, so now for an example we can keep many kinds of value, like for an example I write here 15 and 20. So now computer will need to calculate those things. So here I write the calculation part, which is x is equals to a plus b. That means computer will add those value and keep the result of the value inside of this x. So x is the blank right now, but after this calculation x will be filled. Okay, so here 10 plus 20 plus 15 should be 35, which is kept inside of this x. So after that you need to see the result from the x. So now for this output you have to use another function which is called printf. That means print function. So print function, here also we have to use this percent of d. That means we have to call the variable percent of d, that means integer. Then we need to see the result of this equation. That means the result is located inside of this x. That's why we write here x. Okay, so now what happened here, that we don't use this ampersand, because if you gift someone, then you have to make sure that the envelope is filled with this address, right? If you give anything to anybody, then you have to write down the address and the name and many other things. So here when I want to give some value to our computer, then I have to place the address or ampersand before this name. But when computer give me the output from his location, I don't need to see the location of this x, because this is the responsibility of him, that they can give me the result or they can give me the output. So here computer is responsible to print the output. That's why we don't use here ampersand or address, because we don't need this address here. But when I want to send some data from me to the computer, then I need to mention this location. That's why we use here address. But when computer give me any kinds of result, there I don't need the address, because I just need the value. Okay, after that we have to close the program with this curly brace. So this is the basic structure and very important part of the C programming, where we have to use some very important thing. At first we have to declare the hash include stdio.h, which is our library function. After that the main function is the main master function or the global function. Inside of this global function we have to use our variable, whatever you want inside of your computer, so inside of your program. So you have to write all the variable name at first of your program, then which is called the variable declaration. After this you have to take the input, then processing and the output. So here this is a very important, and maybe if you watch this video and practice 1, 2 or 3 times, it will be very easier to you, and you have to complete almost 20 to 21 problem in this way, exactly in this way. So this is very important and very easy. So must watch and must practice again and again, unless you can write these things by your own. Okay, after this problem we will go to our second problem, but from this problem we will be must change something inside of this program. That will very necessary to understand the C programming with the high quality understanding. So after that we have a sixth problem. One of them I already completed. Here we have find the difference. That means we have to subtract the value, then multiplication, then quotient, and the remainder. After that we have to find the average, which is our problem number 6. So now problem number 2, that means find the difference, which is our previous lecture, already you know about that. So here input AB, it should be y, it should be x, here it would be x. So input AB x is equals to a minus b, print x. So here the problem is hash include stdio.h, so void main, then int abx. Here we write in another system that in our previous program we write int a, then int b, and then int c, and here we write here int abx. Okay, so you can write in this way also, it doesn't matter. I just shortened our programming because we are going to the advanced part of the C programming, that's why we make this make the short program. Now scanf, here we don't use 2 times scanf, here we just only use 1 time. This is scanf function. You can write in this way, scanf. Inside of the scanf we need to input two value for a and for b. So that's how we write here %d and %d for 2 times, because one of them is for a and another one is for b. We called integer value true of integer values. After that we have to make sure to close this double quotation, then comma, then %a. That means this %d is responsible for this a, and for this one we have to write %of b. That means computer will take 2 input, one is for a, another one is for b. Then we have to subtract those value. After that printf, the result should be inside of this x, so that's why we write here %d comma x. Then we have to close the program. Here something you have to understand, that some line contain the semicolon and some line are not. So why we use the semicolon and why we don't use some semicolon? So here if a line is responsible for this line only, that means if this line is not containing anything under this line, so those line is called the single statement, and those line are closed by this semicolon. But when a line is containing something, that means if they had many work after this line, so then we can't close this line with this semicolon. Okay, because this is not a statement, this is a function. Now for this function we need something, we have some work inside of this function. So that's why int abx is not like this kinds of line, that this line have something for this line. So that's why we just close this line with the semicolon. After the scanf, this line will be closed with semicolon, and this one also. But we have many work inside of this main function, that's why we don't close with this semicolon. And also stdio stand for the library function, and this library is responsible for the whole program, that's why we don't use semicolon after this line. Okay, so this is very smaller things, but you have to understand that, because in your question paper you will have this kinds of programming, and they give you the question that correct this program. That means you will have some incorrect portion or incorrect section inside of your program. You have to understand that which is correct and which is incorrect. So here another thing you have to understand, that if you write multiple variable in one line, so you have to use this comma after every variable. And finally scanf, for this scanf you have to use %d or name specifier inside of this double quotation. After that you have to use the comma. Many of you give this comma before this double quotation. Make sure that your comma will be after this double quotation. Then name address comma, then name address, if you have multiple input in one scanf. Then x is equals to a minus b, this is very important. So here after that you have to use the semicolon, and also here you have to use the semicolon. But one of them is very important, which is if you use here smaller x, you have to use here also smaller x, because computer will have the case sensitive for C programming. That's why make sure that you use the same kinds of case every sector inside of your programming. Okay, so now to talk about problem number 3, which is multiplication. This is simple. this should be x. This is simple also here, multiplication result, but here in programming we have something changes. At first we have to go our second programming. Here we use void. Our first program we don't use this void, here we use their void. It doesn't make any sense or any changes in for your present programming, but after the high level of programming we need this void or int or something else. So here for you, don't think or don't worry about this. So here we use library function, here we use int, which is optional, which is not the wrong statement. It's just very normal. You can have this kinds of thing. Please don't take this as the incorrect thing, because you have to sometimes you have to make the incorrect programming to the correct format. So that's why you have to understand that this is the not incorrect formation for your programming journey. Okay, so here after this main we have a curly brace, then int abx, then scanf. Scanf stand for, we already know, input, so we need to take two input which is integer, then that's why %d. After that the multiplication, then the result. Okay, now talk about this thing, printf. Printf does the output, right? So here if you write anything inside of this double quotation, and if this thing is not the keyword, then this word should be printed. Okay, that means if you have any kinds of output for this program, printf, inside of this printf you will have result is, then colon. So that means the output should be in this way, result is, then colon. After that you will have another printf, then this printf is work for giving the value of this x. So you already know about this printf, and this is the new for you. If you write anything inside of the double quotation, and this word or this sentence will be printed in your output. Okay, so here result is printed for this printf, and this printf is stand for the giving the result of this x. So here you can ask me that why %d is not printed, because this %d is not the word, this is a keyword. Computer get command by this %d, so that's why %d is not printed for this program. They only call the integer, and which integer? This is for x. If you write here a, so computer will print the value of a, whatever you want for this a, computer will print a. I want to get the result for of x, so that's why I write here x. So here we use here two printf. You can use this printf or not, whatever you want, but this is very necessary because this is our main output, our main result, and this printf is for the beautification of the programming, that this is more user friendly. Okay, so now we are going to our next program, which is determine the quotient of two numbers using algorithm, flowchart, and C programming. That means if you divide something, then you will get the quotient. So, and this result should not be in fractional value. Okay, so here we have the algorithm, which is x, and the flowchart. So this is the division sign, or you can say slash, or this is the division sign. So now we need to understand the C programming. Here hash include std or .h, as usual. This is our library function. After that you will have the float f. Here we use here float, so which is very common. So this is not make any changes inside of our C programming. Here after that curly brace, then int abx as usual, then scanf, the same things. After that x is equals to a divided by, this is also same, but the changes here in printf. So here we use result is and %d inside of one printf. We don't use here printf for two times. So here how can it possible? If I write here result is, then colon, after that we write here %d comma x. That means computer will print result is, then when it finds %d, computer will understand that here we have to put the result. Okay, like this is our output box. Here result is, then colon, then if the result is 2, like say for example the calculation of a and b, you will get the result x is equals to 2, then it should be this print this output too. If I write this percent of d in between this result and is, then these two will be printed here after this result. Okay, that means this percent of d will be print the result when where you kept the percent of d. Okay, exactly there. Like if you write result percent of d is, so that means computer will print these two after this result. Okay, so here you can write anything inside of this double quotation, and this thing will be printed without this keyword. Keyword only commands something. Okay, so now this is our curly brace, so this is closed. Then talk about determining the remainder of two number using algorithm flowchart and C programming. Here is our algorithm, you already know that. Then flowchart, you already know that. This is our modulus sign, which is stand for our remainder value. Then our C programming, so here we use double, which is also good, not in correct formation, this is a correct formation. Then int abx scanf percent of d ampersand a comma ampersand b, then x is equals to a modulus of b. So that means here we find the remainder value of a and b to this x. So now we have to print the value. Here we use another new thing, which is backslash of n. So in our previous program we write the output in this way: result is colon then 2, right? So for an example, our remainder value is 2, so the result is printed for this printf, and after that we have this percent of d then x. So that means the value of the x will be printed here, so I write here 2. But when computer find this backslash of n, then computer understand that this backslash indicates new line. Okay, this is also a keyword. This keyword give the command to your computer that from here I need a new line. Okay, so this 2 is not printed here, this 2 will be printed here, because in the new line, because we use here percent of before this percent of d we use here modulus or backslash of n. So that means this line will be break from here and go to the new line and print this print the value of this x. Okay, so this is our another system of printing, so you can see this. So this is very important. This is our new keyword. We already know about some keyword and function like main, int, float, double, scanf, printf. Now backslash of n, which indicate the new line. So now if you want to see the fractional value of any kinds of division, then how you can get this? Here the question, this is another type of question expressing the result of the division with fractional value. In our previous two program we get the quotient and the remainder value separately. Now we want to see the result, like 5 divided by 2 we will get 2.5. okay, so these kinds of fractional value. So we have this algorithm as usual, divided. Here we use the slash sign or division sign, then the flowchart should be same, the slash sign, but in C program we have just make some simple changes here. So here void main or int main, whatever you want you can give. Then we use a float instead of int. If you use int, that means computer will keep the value for only integer, but we use a float, that means computer can keep the value for this fractional for this variable. Okay, so here scanf, so we use a percent of here because we already know that percent of f is the name specifier of float. So here we use percent of f for the two times because we need a and b as our input. After that ampersand a and ampersand b as usual. After that we have to divide these things, x is equals to a divided by b, then semicolon, then you have to print the result. Okay, so here printf, then x is our float variable, so here we use a percent of f, then comma x. That means the value of the x will be printed, and it should be the fractional. Here we don't have any kinds of integer, so everything is in fractional. So you can write here any kinds of fractional input like 2.5, 3.5, okay, whatever you want, and you will get the fractional result. So in this line you will get the fractional result. But this is our another thing. You can I just put this thing here to for your better understanding. Like if I write this the value of a is like a is equals to 5, b is equals to like 2, then the output should be x is equals to 2.5. okay, like let's say the result should be 5 3 5 4 2, like let's say x is equals to this is our ultimate result. So here if I use this printf, computer will be print these things, okay, the whole result like 2.5 3 4 5 4 2. okay, but here if I use here printf, if I kept only 2 digit after this point or fraction, then I have to give some command to my computer that I need only 2 digit after this fraction. okay, so that's why we use another type of printf here. Like in this program we will get two types of value. One of them is this x is equals to this, and another one x, and we want 2 digit only. So here we use between this percent and f, we use here 0.2. that means we only need 2 digit after this point. okay, so here for this printf you will get 2.53. okay, just 2 digit after this point for this printf. And if you write this printf, that means you will get full result. okay, let's say the fractional value is, this is not okay, I will remove these things because like I will remove these things. okay, let's say x is equals to, this is our ultimate result, and for this x, this is our ultimate result. You can write this kinds of printf or this kinds of printf. If you ask for only 2 digit after this point, then you have to these things. But if you ask for like 3 digit after this point or fraction, then you have to write percent of percent, then dot or 0.3f. okay, when you use 0.2, that means you will get 2 digit, 0.3, that means you will get 3 digit after this fractional value, and x is the same. okay, so this is our result for the division. So when you use float and the variable, if the variable is in float, then you will get the fractional result. If you use here int, and this would be int and int and int, then you will get the fractional value. okay, now talk about our last problem. This is our problem number 6. Determine the average of 3 number using algorithm flowchart and C programming. Here this is our main algorithm, a plus b plus c divided by 3, print the value of avg, stop. So here the flowchart also a plus b plus c divided by 3, print avg. So now our program should be hash include stdio.h. Here we use only main function after this curly brace, inside of the int abx and float avg. This is another type of programming. Here we want to give input 3 integer, and the average could be in fractional value, right? So that's why we use the another variable named avg, and this is in the float format. So here we need to take input for this 3 input. So scanf percent of d for 3 times for 3 integer, and we write the address and the name for each integer, ampersand a, comma ampersand b, and comma ampersand c. After that we make sure to put this semicolon, then the equation should be avg is equals to a plus b plus c. Then definitely you have to put this first parenthesis, then /3. okay, so this is our average. So average is in the float format, that means this avg will keep the value in fractional format. So here printf, so this is the our word what I want in our result. So the output should be like this, like it should be written like this, average is, then you will have this equal, because inside of this we write this equal also. Then we find percent of f, that means we call the float value float variable. And what is the float variable? This avg. So I write here avg, that means this here we will get the value of this avg. So like say for example our average value is 3.29. okay, so computer will be print in this way. Okay, so this is the ultimate solution for this average. So you can write the program in your way. You can input those three things in integer format. Also you can take input in float format, whatever you want. I just make sure that I can keep all types of variation in inside of my programming. That's why we write in many way inside of my lecture, so so that you can understand it easily and you can find any kinds of solution by your own, and you can make sure that you can correct any kinds of programming in your question. So this is our lecture number 2, and if you have any question, please write it down and ask me in our next lecture, lecture number 3. And if you have any question, then also you can ask me in your WhatsApp group, which is our private group, and make sure that you will understand everything very perfectly. If you have any problem, watch again the video, watch again the topics, then you will be okay with this. Okay, so this is very interesting, and in this way you can learn 21 problem in the same structure. So make sure that you have a mastery on it. Okay, so thank you again. So we'll learn lecture number 3 in our next week. See you again.